Imagine transforming the darkest moments of your life into a source of strength, not just for yourself, but for others around the world. Today, we're joined by Dr. Claresa Baggs, a powerful voice on breaking the silence around childhood trauma and inspiring a global shift in how we heal and support survivors. With insight on walking in your purpose and influencing others positively, Dr. Claresa brings a fresh perspective on reclaiming life after trauma. Dr. Claresa, welcome to Impctrs Out Loud.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor.
You're welcome. Okay, so Dr. Claresa, every powerful mission has a story behind it, a reason that lights the fire and keeps it burning. I'd love to hear you share your cause tale with us. What pivotal moment or experience led you to becoming an advocate for survivors and to speak out about childhood trauma on a global scale?
Well, I am the eldest of 12 kids from my mother and
a dozen.
4 kids from my father.
Okay.
I'm still the eldest, though, so I'm still the boss.
Really? Oh,
yes,
wow.
I'm still the boss.
Okay.
As far as living with my mother, my siblings and I, we grew up in a pretty abusive household, mental, physical, and emotional. And then that comes from her with her second husband. We grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, St. Bernard Projects.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up initially mostly with our grandmother. And then my mother was married, and for them, that was an abusive relationship. A lot of fighting, a lot of police calls, a lot of, that cycle of I'm calling the police, but then I'm going to go to court and pick them up and get them out of jail, that kind of, which I'm kind of happy that the system has changed that now.
Mm-hmm.
But in my second grade, my mom met a new guy, and he became her new husband. And that's when all of the traumas really began.
Oh, wow.
And that's when...
So you were about 7?
I was about 7 or 8.
Okay.
I remember, and the reason I'm saying that because I remember, because my birthday is in February, and I remember...
Oh, I'm an Aquarian too.
I'm a Pisces girl. I'm not an Aquarian.
You're a Pisces. Oh, you're on the latter end of February.
I'm the special ones.
Okay.
And I say that because February, so I had to, all my little neighborhood friends, I had to sit out and wait for them to go to school, and then I could go. Mm-hmm. But after this person came into our life is when all of the mental, physical, and emotional abuse happened. When I'm going to give you a summary, and then if you want to go into details, we can go into details. Okay. That's when in 3rd grade is when I was placed in parochial school, myself and one of my sisters. Okay. The rest of my siblings stayed in public school. And in 3rd grade is when the rapes began, almost daily.
Oh, wow.
And 26 days into my 12th birthday, I gave birth to my child. And I don't know if you want to go into all of that, but
whatever you are comfortable talking about.
I'm comfortable talking about all of it.
Okay, we can talk about it.
Okay.
I know that it will help somebody. There's
Yes.
probably somebody who has gone through something similar that will hear this and be like, okay, let me reach out to Dr. Claresa and see how she healed and how I can heal. So I think that's one of the reasons I do this podcast, is because impact stories come in many different forms. And a lot of times there are people out here who are suffering from certain things or suffering through things, and they have no one to talk to,
Yes.
and them
Absolutely.
hearing your story or someone else's story can show them that they're not alone in this world, and they have someone to reach out to who can relate to what it is that they're going through.
Absolutely. In third grade, again, I was separated from the majority of my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom would be the person that would dole out whatever punishments we received. And he would be the one to, quote unquote, whisper in her ear. And
Mm-hmm.
she would be the one to dole out the majority of the abuse. I'll give you an example. My brother at the time, I only had one brother at the time. He would get into trouble, and she would tie his hands and his feet together with cords,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd be naked, and she would put him in a tub of water, and she would hold his head underwater while she beat him with the extension cords. There were one of my sisters had one of her toes broken with a baseball bat. So those kind of things happened. We learned very early how to hide our scars. Survivors learn very early how to tell lies.
Yeah.
We do. We learn how to um, preserve ourselves and how to protect ourselves. And sometimes that means telling a lie to get out of trouble. And sometimes it's telling a lie to protect the perpetrator.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah, sometimes you're
Yes.
protecting the perpetrator because you're so afraid of the consequences of the
Yes.
perpetrator if you're not able to be let out of the situation that you're currently in. Yeah.
We lived in a controlling environment. The control was to the extent that even how we moved our eyes. Yes. If I were looking at person A
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to look at person C, then, because B's in the middle. So I want to look at person C, I need to look at person A, we had to close our eyes. Remember where person C was. Move your eyes while they're closed to where you think person C is, and then open your eyes. Because if we moved our eyes from one person to the other person, they told us that we were then rolling our eyes at people. So it was to that extreme.
So you said that you and one of your sisters were going to parochial school. How were you guys able to go to parochial school and not the others?
Well, it was part of the separation.
Okay.
It was part of
Because
separation.
you were living with your grandmother, right?
No, by this time,
Mm-hmm.
it was a lot. By this time, they
Mm-hmm.
had kicked my grandmother out of the house.
Okay.
Because my grandmother expressed opposition to what was going on with us. And
Gotcha.
she made the mistake of telling one of the neighbors what she thought was happening in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And the neighbor went back and told my mom.
Oh, no.
And my grandmother had to go. So they basically put her out on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And going to parochial school was myself, but the younger sister that went to parochial school was his child.
Got you.
My mom had a child for him.
Mm-hmm.
So just us two. And of course, we couldn't afford it. So we went on whatever scholarships the Catholic Church had.
Mm-hmm.
And one day he decided that we were going to all play this game, which we never play games with him.
Mm-hmm.
But he decided that we were going to play this game called Tickle. So we all get in the bed, including my brother. We all get in the bed and we all tickle each other. Tick, tick. Mm-hmm. It's laughing and one of those rare moments or rare things that we did together.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day he decided that nobody else could play tickle, only me.
Mm.
So that went on for maybe about a week. It didn't last long
Mm-hmm.
until one day he says, or he asked, do you want to know how grown-ups play tickle? And I'm thinking, how in the world could, what's different about tickle that grown-ups
Right.
can play? And that's when the rape started. But he was smart. He was very smart, very cunning. It wasn't a brutal rape.
Mm.
It was over time. It was
Mm-hmm.
gradual. And I remember one of the first times getting up and going to the bathroom and wiping off what I thought looked like snot. And of course, later I knew what it was.
Right.
And this went on. And times would come when I would tell him no.
Mm-hmm.
And he would say, well, if you won't do it, I'll just get one of your sisters. So in order to not let that happen to my sisters, of course, I would give in. The school that I attended was directly across the street from our house. And there would be days when I would come outside, come from school. My siblings would get home before me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd come from school and they'd be outside playing. We never went outside to play.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be on the back porch and he would have on sandals, jean shorts, a tank top, not a tank top, the white undershirt.
Wife beaters.
Yeah. And he had a gold chain. I could see it. I could see him. A gold chain. He had a jerry curl. And I get across the street close to the house, and I'm thinking, we're going to actually play outside. He said, they call me Toonie. He said, Toonie, get in the house. Like I was in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But that was his way of getting me in the house with them outside.
Gotcha.
And then when it was over, I'm thinking, well, at least I get to go outside. Nope, everybody had to come back in the house. So that happened for a while. And then one day I was sitting at the kitchen table and I felt some rumbling in my belly. It felt like butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
And my 11-year-old mind, I knew. I just looked down and I said, I'm pregnant.
Okay.
But as soon as the thought came, it just went away. It was gone. I never thought anything else of it until one day they had gone to a Mardi Gras party. And believe it or not, they let us go by my aunt and my grandmother. They went to the party. They came back 5:00 in the morning. My parents said, they said, well, they got to come home. My grandmother and my aunt's like, let them stay. They're already here. No, they got to come because control.
Right.
And they had concrete steps in the projects. And I was sleepy and I slid down those steps face first.
Oh, no.
Straight down. It's about 24, 25 steps.
Mm.
And, get up. You're okay. Let's go. Not long after that, my belly started to grow. So that's when she decided she was going to take me to the doctor.
Mm.
But before she took me to the doctor, I think he had a clue as well. He pulled out a Bible and he said, you know what this is? Yeah, it's a Bible. I want you to put your hand on this Bible. And you know what happens if you put your hand on the Bible and you say you're going to do something, you don't do it. What happens? I said, you go to hell. That's what we were taught. You go to hell. And so he had me put my hand on the Bible and swear that if anyone asks if someone touched me, that I would say that it was one of his brothers.
Wow.
He named one of his brothers. And he was wise in the brother that he chose because this brother stayed in trouble. Stayed in trouble. However, this brother never bothered us. He was one of the coolest uncles. Now, he did do his dirt, but as far as we were concerned, there was no issue. And so I just answered, yes, sir. And time came, my mom took me to the doctor's office. And it was in one of those houses. Well, this was in the 70s. So there's no such thing as HIPAA. So the doctor's office is in a house, and the waiting room is in what was the living room.
Okay.
So they take me to the back, and they lay me on the table, and the doctor comes, and he has a stethoscope, and he's listening to my belly. And he has this weird look on his face. He calls another doctor, a female, and he has her listen to my belly. She has the same expression. Then they have me pee in a cup. Then the nurse comes out into the waiting area.
Oh, Lord. And announces it to everyone?
Your daughter's pregnant.
Oh, Lord.
My mom starts cutting up. Oh, my gosh, I can't believe this is happening to my family. She's just going on. She's putting on a performance.
Right.
A performance. Who did this to you? And of course, I told the lie. And I said, Uncle so-and-so. Oh, he had to have done it because what did he do? Did he threaten you or something? And the worst thing I could think that this man would have done, I said, well, he said he would punch me. I couldn't think of, he's going to kill me. He's going to do this. None of that. He's going to punch me. Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense because he's a whole lot bigger than her. Look at her. She's just a little girl. And so, yeah, we're going to take care of this. So we leave out, and she's just ranting and raving what she's going to tell this person, what she's going to tell that person, but never once did she check on her child. So we get home, and she's just ranting and raving. And she's telling him that she's going to kill his brother. He doesn't stop her. His brother lives about 2 hours away. She puts me in a car with a shotgun, and we head to St. Martinsville. She's going to kill this man. We get there. I mean, she's just ranting and raving the whole time. We get there, and she's looking for him. I'm terrified because I've lied. Right. And this man's going to die because I lied. I'm 11 years old. And they get me in a car with one of his sisters. And the sister's driving. My mom's riding shotgun, and I'm sitting in the back in between both seats. And throughout the entire ride, that supposedly the sister was looking for her brother. No, she wasn't. The sister is going on about how she can't understand why, if he did this, why I wasn't bleeding. And that when she got married, she was a virgin, and how it's graphic. I'm 11. She's talking about how big her husband was and how he tore her up and all the blood and this and that and the other. And if I were her child, she would beat me between my legs and just going on. And my mom's sitting there. I'm so serious. And my mom is sitting there, and she is amening it. She's amening what this lady is saying. So we get back to the house. And my mom is waiting for him to get there. He never shows up, of course, because I'm sure somebody called him.
Of course.
He didn't show up. But I didn't know this. So I'm on the porch, and I'm just thinking, like, oh my God. She's going to kill him. I'm terrified. She's going to kill him, and she's going to kill him because I lied. But if I tell the truth, I'm going to go to hell. But if I don't tell the truth, he's going to lie. Imagine being in that position as a child. So I said, okay, well, I can't let her kill him. I truly believe she was going to kill him. So I said, well, Mama, I got something to tell you. And she said, what do you have to tell me? I said, well, it wasn't Uncle so-and-so. Well, who was it? I said, it was, this time we called him Daddy. I said, it was Dad. So she goes back in the house and she says, "Oh, so now she's saying it's his name's Alan. Now she's saying it's Alan."
Mm-hmm.
And she puts me back in the car and we drive all the way back to New Orleans. And she gets there and she's ranting and she's raving, and I could peek out the windows, and the neighbors are opening their windows and they can hear everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he calls me in the kitchen. He says, "You told her, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, sir." Thinking I'm, but I don't care at that point because I'm going to hell.
Right.
It really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Okay." He just said, "Okay," and nothing. His punishment for raping her child for a couple of years at least,
Mm-hmm.
that he had to have a vasectomy. She kept right on. He passed away probably 2 years ago, and she still worships the ground this monster walked
She stayed with him?
Yes. She stayed with him for about two more years. But she still worships the ground he walks on today.
Wow.
So here I am, pregnant. They're lying to the school, because it's the Catholic Church. They're lying, telling them that they're expanding on the story of me sliding down the stairs and hurting myself. Mm-hmm. So now I have a tumor, is what they're saying.
Oh my goodness.
So they're telling everybody she's got a tumor. She has a quote unquote growing tumor. And of course the rumors, because a lot of people had already heard her big mouth. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So now the rumors are at the school that, that I was pregnant. And she's raising all kind of hell about how dare they say that her child is pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I remember I used to want to be a nun. And I remember being in the backyard, and we had the clotheslines, the little T-cross clotheslines. And I was hanging on them, just swinging. And her and that neighbor that told on my grandmother, they were on the porch. And they thought it was the funniest thing that I could no longer be a nun because I was pregnant. Well, you can't be a nun now because you're getting ready to have a baby. So time comes for me to go into the hospital. Mm-hmm. This time I went initially because my blood pressure was high. So here I am, a child in the hospital. Mm-hmm. The only good thing that I remember out of that was, because we had no money, we had nothing. Everything we got was hand-me-down. I got my very own Peter Rabbit coloring book, my own box of crayons, and I did not have to share it with my siblings. Mm-hmm. So I was very happy. The fact that I was having a child was just a byproduct, right? Because as far as
you're 12, you're 11, 12.
Yeah, it didn't faze me really. Mm-hmm. And this nurse comes in and she says, "So what are you gonna do with your baby?" I'm coloring. I said, "I don't know." She says, "Well, can I have it?" Said,
really?
Yeah, just like that.
Wow.
I don't know. You have to ask my mom and my daddy. And I'm more annoyed because she's bothering me.
Right, because you're so happy that you got this coloring book to yourself.
Yeah, I'm just coloring. I'm sitting there with my legs crossed in the middle of the bed, having a good old time. Here, this adult comes, want to talk. Mm-hmm. She said, "Well, this is my name, and will you give him my name and phone number?" And I did. And they called her, and they made arrangements for her to take my daughter. Mm-hmm. And so... But she told me, she said, "If you ever want your daughter back," she said, "I know it's going to hurt. Mm-hmm. If you ever want her, just call me and tell me, and I will give you your baby back." Mm-hmm. Still, I'm like, okay.
Right.
It's a bunch of us kids. So
one more.
Another kid running around.
Right.
So one day, and he had started going to see the baby. Mm-hmm. And I had not seen her. Mm. I'm sorry, I'm gonna back up and tell you when I did see her the one time and I didn't know it was her. But he had gone to see the baby and he would come back and he'd be ranting and raving about what the lady's daughter had on and how you could see through this and you could see through that. And he'd just be going on like he was offended. But you're the rapist.
Mm-hmm.
And one day he took me to this woman's house, some woman he was seeing. I don't know why he thought it was okay to just bring me. But he took me to this woman's house and he brought me into the kids' bedroom and had me just sit there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was off with this lady doing whatever they were doing. And when he came out to get me, he pointed to a picture that was on the lady's dress on her coffee table. And he says, you see those two girls right there, her two daughters right there? I say, yes, sir. They play tickle with me too. Okay. So he's out here cutting up. He's cutting up. But the one time I did see my daughter when she was an infant. Like this was probably spring, summer. It was the summer. My grandmother, they allowed my grandmother to take us to a carnival that her job held at the fairgrounds. And we don't get out the house because of how we live. And my grandmother is sitting under a tree, and there's this lady sitting under a tree with her, and the lady has a baby. The lady recognized me. I did not recognize her. And they're calling me over to the tree. Why? I'm playing. They have horses, they have this and that, and food and candy. Why are the adults calling me? And the lady said, you want to see my baby? You want to see the baby? I was like, okay. And I was gone. I had no clue this was my child. No clue until I got back home. And my mom says, your grandma was sitting under a tree with this lady. And you see the baby? I said, yeah. She said, that was your baby. So my grandmother got to see her great-grandchild, and she didn't know it. She did not know that was her great-grandchild.
Oh, she didn't know either. Okay.
I'm telling you, they kept this thing when she had signs put up on the door outside the hospital that I could not have visitors. She gave the nurses strict instruction. I could not have visitors.
Okay.
One day, one of my little sisters was sitting on the floor eating red beans and rice. Somehow she got a hold of a box of salt. And she poured a really nice mound of salt in her food. And they told her she had to eat it. And my sister's name is Leslie. And Leslie's mouth, her lips started to crack. And so I got up and I threw away some of the food, but I was too afraid to throw it all away. So she ended up eating that food with that salt in it. 4 days, she got sick. 4 days later, and my mom comes in the room. We're in there sleeping. And my mom comes in the room. She opens the door and she says, Leslie's dead. And she closes the door and leaves us laying there. So these are the kind of things that that we grew up with. I used to have suicide ideations. So I'd be up at night trying to figure out how I'm going to kill myself. What am I going to do? I used to go in the knife drawer and figure out, I want to kill myself. I want it to be painful. I'm I'm wise enough to know I don't want it to be painful.
Right.
But I'm still wanting to kill myself. And trying to figure out how to do it. If I use this knife, do I just fall on it? Do I just all kinds of things are going through my head. And then one day I had a dream that, and in this dream, I was kneeling on the floor between my mother's legs and she was combing my hair. And this lady came to me and she said, Toonie, she said, come here. I want to show you something. So I got up, and you know how dreams are. My mom didn't even notice I got up. She was talking. And it's instantly we were in this room, and the room was pitch black. And on the wall to the left were 3 huge museum-sized paintings.
Mhm.
had the gold foil trim frames and
Mhm.
the picture lights over them. And I was walking closest to the pictures. She was on my right. And the first picture I saw was a picture of who we perceived to be Satan. He had the red horns, the suit, the eye, everything.
Mhm.
And so I scurried away from that. The very second was who we were told that Jesus looks like. So he's got the whole blonde hair, got the little halo over his head. This is Jesus. Logic tells me that the very next picture is going to be God.
Mhm.
So I go to try to see God. And she puts her hand out in front of me and stops me. And she
Mhm.
says, "You can't see him yet
Mhm.
because he's not ready for you. He has things that he wants you to do first before you can see him."
Mhm.
And I woke up. I never tried again. However, my relationship with God was basically in tatters because I'm mad at
Mhm.
him. I'm angry because had it not been for him allowing this man into my life, none of these things would have happened. If it had not been for God allowing this man into my life, I would not have sworn on this Bible. If
Mhm.
it had not been for God allowing all of this, I would not now be going to hell.
Mhm.
No matter what I did, I'm going to hell because that was an absolute. Because we're taught in we were taught in church.
Right.
You swear on this Bible and you go against whatever it is you swear, or you lie or what have you, you're going to
Mhm.
hell. So I had a problem with God.
Mhm.
And one day I was watching the Bible story. It was in black and white. And I didn't at that time truly understand why Christ died on the cross.
Mhm.
But I was watching the scene where he is on the cross and he looks up to heaven and he asks God, why had he forsaken him? And it was as if all the world opened up for me. And I gained this wisdom. Now I'm still a child, but I gained this wisdom. And I
Mhm.
said, well, that explains a lot. That explains it. If he didn't care enough about his own child and he let these people do all of these things to his own child,
Mhm.
he don't care nothing about me. That was my answer. I knew why he let all these things happen because he didn't care anything about me. And it took a long time to get past that.
Mhm.
It really did. It took a long time to understand that it wasn't my fault.
Mhm.
It took a long time to be able to withstand people's ridicule.
Right.
Because when someone would find out that I have a daughter as close in age to me,
Mhm.
their knee jerk reactions would always be, "Oh, you were hot in the ass.
Right.
You were
Right.
fast. You were
Yep.
chasing boys. When I was a little girl, all I wanted to do was play with baby dolls." Me too.
Mhm. Mhm.
Me too. But the fault was always placed at my feet.
Right.
Nobody ever asked who got an 11-year-old child pregnant. I hadn't even had my period yet. I look like a straight boy.
Mhm.
Nobody ever asked who got this child pregnant.
Mhm. So, did you have to live with him until you were 18?
I lived with him until I was 14, 15.
Okay.
So it continued. It,
Mhm.
it never stopped.
Really?
No, 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 no.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, he's not gonna get me pregnant.
Right, because your mom made him have a vasectomy.
Yeah,
That's
he's
right.
not gonna get me pregnant.
Mhm.
You can you imagine? I hope this. I'm concerned all the time that this sounds bad,
Mhm.
and I pray that it doesn't. But when people talk about other folk being molested and being raped as a child,
Mhm.
they use the in my mind, they use the word molested because it sounds better
Yeah,
than rape.
definitely.
And what happens is they don't understand the severity of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that because most of the time when kids are raped, especially continuously in an environment like that where they can't go anywhere, they don't think it's so bad. When an adult or it's a stranger rape, a lot of times they see the bruises, they see the cuts, they see the snatched hair, they see all of that. They see the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see the trauma for kids.
Right. Right.
And in my mind, and this is not to take away from violent rape adults, not
Mm-hmm.
at all. I want people to understand that it is not it. But I think that when it's a child or even an adult who's put in a situation where they're raped every day and
Mm-hmm.
you're having to break bread with the person, with your rapist every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I used to brush his dentures, lotion his feet, lotion,
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff. You have to offer servitude to the person that you know is
Mm-hmm.
either just finished raping you or
Mm-hmm.
they're going to rape you either
Mm-hmm.
today or tomorrow. I think that that is so soul scorching,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't give it the understanding and the
Yeah.
severity that they should.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a sad thing. I think that children who are put in those situations
Mm-hmm.
should be, and even not even rape, just abused children, they should
Mm-hmm.
be categorized under the domestic violence, and they're not. You
It
hear
is
domestic,
domestic violence.
yeah,
Yes.
when you hear domestic violence, you think
Mhm.
about adults.
Yes. And you think about beatings. You
Yeah,
think
you
about
never
somebody
think
hitting
about
someone else. Yeah.
children.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think
Mm-hmm.
about, you
Mm-hmm.
don't count, they don't say, well, this person committed domestic violence. Immediately you think about an adult,
Right.
boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
never think about the domestic violence being perpetrated on the child.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
want to change that.
Okay.
I want people to start having dialogue. I want
Mm-hmm.
people to start talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
And until we do, it's going to continue until we change the statutes that allows people to be prosecuted years later. It's not going to change. Recently, even when they had the whole Me Too
Mm-hmm.
movement going, it really broke my heart to hear people say, and they still do it, well, why did they wait so long?
Mm-hmm.
It's been 20 years.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been, this happened to them 30 years ago, and they're talking about it
Mm-hmm.
now. They should have said,
Mm-hmm.
they were not there. It took me years,
Mm-hmm.
decades, to be able to open my mouth and speak my truth, because we still live with the shame that
Right.
really isn't ours, but was placed upon us. And we also, correctly or incorrectly, still try to protect others around us. A
Yeah.
good friend of mine often says that when you tell your story, you're
Mm-hmm.
telling other people's story too.
That's what
And
I
it's
said in the
true.
beginning. Tell the truth because there's somebody out there holding on to something that
Yes,
they are definitely afraid of telling because the same thing that you just said, they don't want to be ridiculed, they don't want to be shamed. The mentally they just can't deal with it.
yes, yeah. And
Okay,
being
because
ostracized
they're
by your own
I was
family.
just about to say that. They're
Oh,
afraid to be ostracized. They're afraid, okay, I'm already alone in my thoughts. Now, if I say them out loud, I'm going to be physically ostracized. So I'm going to be even more alone. And then it leads them down the path of what you said before, too, thinking about self harming.
yes,
So they tend to keep quiet. So I have a few questions. Have
yes.
you reconnected with your daughter?